Okay. Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Sarina Baptista, and she's going to tell us about a very different experience you've had
Yes,
regarding your little boy.
yes,
So I'll let
yes.
you start wherever you like.
Great. Yes. So what happened to my family, you don't know, you don't think that these kinds of things are going to happen. But our 7-year-old son in March 2007 died unexpectedly. He caught the flu on Monday, and Friday I went in to check on him, and he wasn't breathing. And so I started CPR. My husband called 911. The first responders came. They were working on him. It was unbelievable how much they were trying to bring him back. I You don't even think that your child can leave at all. And then to have that
Mm.
experience and to have them say at the hospital, we lost him. And that began the journey, that began the craziness of what my family was experiencing. And I learned at that time that there are lots of people who lose children. And not only that, but who lose loved ones. And where do they go? I kept thinking to myself, where's my kid?
Yeah.
Where do they go? And so I just what I call followed breadcrumbs. My son, I learned later that my son was leaving these breadcrumbs to find him again. And I just went along. I knew that there was purpose to it. My daughter was sick also, and she recovered. She had a higher fever. There was no indication that my son was going to pass from this, no indication at all. And so when that happened and when I started my search, I thought he's got to be somewhere. And I would look out his bedroom window and I would say, looking out at the stars, and I would say, "Where are you? I know you're out there. Where are you?" Very, very shortly after he left, he started bringing us signs, big signs. The dragonfly was a huge sign. It was about 5 weeks after he left. And I was at the cemetery and just having one of those days, one of those days where you say, why is my kid in the ground? Why did this happen to me? And I was screaming. I was pounding his grave, literally just having an absolute meltdown. And out of the corner of my eye, I see movement. And I saw this movement of something I had no idea what. So I got quiet and I was already on my hands and knees anyway. So I just lowered myself a little bit and I looked around and there was a dragonfly. And he zipped by. And I thought, that's curious. Okay. And then he came back again, zipped by again. And I thought, all right. And then he stopped in front of me and just danced. And at that moment, I knew that it was JT. I knew that he was giving this to us. He was bringing this to me. And to this day, he does use dragonflies still, even though I do have connection with him now. He does use dragonflies when I need it. When I need that a notification that information that he is still really close, even though I know that he is because I talk with him every day now. But in the beginning, it was just such a godsend to have those nuggets to hold on to. Again, that was 5 weeks in, and he would lead me to the people who I needed to talk to the people who could help me. And so many of these people were saying, JT says he has big plans for you, and you agreed to this. And that last statement, I thought,
No, I didn't.
who the hell? Who in the hell agrees to their kid
Right, right.
leaving? And I thought, what in the world is this? And I started reading a book by Michael Newton, Dr. Michael Newton, and it's called I get the two of them. Journey of Souls, because there was another one I was reading at the same time from John Holland called Power of the Soul. This one was Journey of Souls. And I started reading that and it really resonated with me. And in that book, it talks about that. It talks about these agreements that we make, these contracts that we make while we're in that in-between space. And that, and then we come in and we get to fulfill those contracts. And again, a very foreign concept, but it did resonate with me. And so I looked up on Dr. Newton's website and I saw that there was someone local who did what they call the life between life regressions. Her name is Linda Bachman, and she's in Colorado. And I called, and on the message machine, they said they had a 6 month wait. And I thought, oh my God, there's no way I can wait 6 months to find out, is this what this is about? Why did this happen? What's my part in it? Everybody's saying he's got big plans for you. What's my part? Did I agree to this? All these questions. And so I left a message, not expecting to hear back for months. Within 5 minutes, I got a phone call back, and they said that they had a cancellation for the following week and would I like to take I said, oh, yes, yes, I would. And what it entails, it is a hypnosis. It is a form of hypnosis. And what we do is we go back to that in-between space. It's very similar to, Brian Weiss. If you've heard of Brian Weiss, he does hypnosis for past lives. This is that in-between life state as well as past lives. And so I went to the appointment. And it's a full day process. And we start with going into past lives and then coming out of them. And there was a point at which, we went into a past life and then we came out of it. I was in that in between space and I saw all of these people, energies, I guess, that just shadows in front of me. And I knew I was in that space and I saw all these shadows. And then JT, my son, came forward from the crowd. Out of the crowd, he came forward. And of course, I immediately burst into tears, both in that space and physically, because you're in a state of hypnosis at the time. And I hugged him. And at the time, this was just so real. There's, it's unbelievable how real this all felt and how real it was. And it was real, later on anyway. I'm jumping ahead of myself. So the one question that I had for him when I finally calmed down was, did we agree to this? Everybody's telling me we agreed to this. Did we agree to this? And at that moment, it was almost like we were ushered to this room, and I was looking through a window, and on the other side of the window I could see myself, my husband, JT, our two other children, and we were kind of sitting around a table, as much as you sit around a table when you're spirit, right? And I heard myself say, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, let's do it, knowing that I had just agreed to JT leaving early, knowing that that is what that was about. It totally changed my trajectory of what I was doing. I thought, wow, okay, that if I agreed to it, then what does that mean? What did I really agree to? And so it was about a month later that I had a meeting with a medium. I had never been to a medium before. And I had a meeting with a medium. I found her through a friend of mine. She was located in California. She never met us. She didn't know us. And she began saying that my high guides were there. We hadn't even talked to JT at this point. My high guides were there, and they said that I was a medium. They said I was the bridge between this world and the next. And I thought, what? I mean, how does that happen? I said, what do you do? You don't just wake up talking to dead people. How do you do this? At least that's, I mean, some people do. I'm sure.
Yeah, like
I
how could you
know.
not know, right? Like
Right, exactly. And I know that all of us have this ability, and most of us squash it when we're younger because it just wasn't okay. It wasn't okay in my house, to know
right.
that my mother was lying to me or that my father wasn't, whatever. It wasn't okay for me to know these things being 7, 8 years old. So you squash it, you bury it. And this was the time where I had to uncover it. This was the time where I was being called to step into my purpose, which was to help other people through this grief and also through closure and understanding where their loved ones are. And beyond that, who are we? Who are we here on the planet? What are we doing here? Why do we come here to begin with? All of those, all those questions, all of that information. It was astounding to me how much information you can get just by asking
I
spirit.
hear that over and over. Ask,
Yeah.
ask.
Ask, exactly. And I would forget, so I got off the phone with her. It was a phone session, got off the phone with her. I had just a couple of days prior finished reading Power of the Soul by John Holland. And in that book, it goes through the clairs, the way that we receive information. Found that I was clairsentient just through that. And I had the aha moment. Oh my God, I wonder if this is what I'm supposed to do. And then the meeting with the medium, and she confirmed that. And I said to her, what do you do? And she says, training, training, training. So I immediately got into training programs and was astounded at how quickly it all happened within a month of training, just 1 month of going from nothing, right? Going from zero connection. I had kids on the other side starting to come to me and asking me to get messages to their parents. Now, at the time, I didn't know what I was doing. It was so random and sketchy and, all of that. Now I know, I'm trained now, but at the time they would come in when I was changing my kids' diapers and all of that. But hey, I was so grateful for the connection and so grateful that for the validation because I did give those messages and they were validated by
How did you
the
know who the parents were, how to reach them?
well, that was one of them told me. One of them said his name, and I knew his mom. I had joined some groups, some bereaved mom groups, and it was an unusual name. And I thought, oh, are you this person? Is your mom this person? And he said yes. And that was the weirdest thing that I ever had to do was get not tell I was still in training. I didn't want to come out of the psychic closet, so to speak.
And
So,
knowing what it's like as that mother, so tender.
oh, yes, and
It's
want
such a
making
risk.
sure because exactly making sure that I was totally accurate, that I was on it. And I thought, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to do this? And so I did. I put out word. I said, can you have so and so's mom, so and so call me, please? Here's my number. She did. She called. And I didn't tell her why I needed her to call. I didn't want to put that out there. Again, a month into training.
Hmm.
And so she did call, and I had to say, I am learning how to be a medium. I am learning how to converse with the other side. And your son has been bugging me for days now, wanting to get you a message. And I just had to give this. I have to give this to you. I don't do that anymore. I don't, the people have to come to me. If they don't, like there was a beautiful girl who came to me and during my training session, do exercises and all of that training to receive. She came and I said, I can't just call your mom. I'm sorry. Can you get her to cross my path? And she did. The woman joined a group And I was able to, a group that I was on, and I was able to get in touch with her. And again, it was very, very awkward. I always say to Spirit, don't do it that way. Just just bring it up on their Google who they should talk to, and then have them contact me that way. Because calling somebody up or connecting with them, emailing them and saying, "Hey, I've got your,
Yeah.
your kid here." Blah. I did not like to do that at all.
Yeah.
But I did it in those instances, well, because I was told to do it by my guides, by JT. I was said, I was told to reach out. But ordinarily I wouldn't have done that.
How
Now,
do you
in
not
the
second
beginning.
guess yourself? Because when I get these little things, I just second
Yeah.
guess myself out of it. Like, I don't want to take that risk.
Right.
I'd be
Well, I
wrong.
think enough times I've been right.
Okay.
You and I again I hone my craft. I meditate, I connect every day. I go through the exercises of making sure that I am clear before I ever get onto a Zoom call with a client, because now I am doing readings, and I am doing training. That was the other big piece that JT brought in after I had connection with him. He says, Mom, you got to train other people to do this. So that's a focus of mine as well. And so, yeah, it just blossomed. And when I did contact that woman, the very first kid, she said, well, if he's really there, then what color is the cat sitting next to me? And I thought, oh my God, how am I going to do that? And so I asked him, what color is the cat? He said, gray. And I thought, okay, that's good because that's not a common color. You can have like tabbies and you can have orange cats and things like that, or black cats, right? But gray was different enough that that didn't feel planted to me, right? And so I said that, and there was silence on the other end of the phone, and I thought, oh no, did I just blow it? Did I hear it incorrectly? And she said, yes, the cat is gray. And then she was able to hear me. I always say spirit gets to choose what messages we get to their loved one. They get to choose. It's not, oh, tell me this or I won't believe you. And I always have to say, leave it to your loved one. They know what you need to hear. They always give validation. They always give validation. And now I am a certified medium, through the Helping Parents Heal organization. So I have been scientifically tested and passed. And so I'm a certified medium. And that, I love that there is quantability there, quantifiable uh, information that people can say, oh yeah, she's not a fly by night. She's been tested and she has been proven to be a medium.
Have you been
And
brought
again,
into like missing person cases or anything like that or solve things?
I have, it's not where I want to be. There are different, different psychics and different mediums do things differently. That's not an area that I prefer. I prefer to talk to people who are, really ready for that closure, really ready for the healing, ready for those messages uh, that their loved one really is close by and the signs they give and all of that. There is one case that I am working on with a police department, because she was just so clear. This girl who was murdered was just so clear in where she was, where they found her, and all of that. But ordinarily, I don't. It's not an area that I like. But lots of mediums do, and I always say I don't like it, just because. Again, I'm all about the healing, and I know that is a healing aspect too, but there's different flavor to it. There's a different flavor to that. And again, the healing side, the spiritual side, helping people connect, learning how to connect with their loved ones, learning how to have that conversation themselves. That's really where I feel like my gifts are best
I would
utilized.
think that would be a happier job than, the missing persons, I imagine it's so draining and so depressing and
I
dark
would
and
imagine, right? And then you have to say, no, that person's gone. I did have very, very early on, I think 6 months into my training, I did a psychic fair, and a woman did come to me and said, my brother's missing. This is the last location. And I checked in, and he was not of the living anymore. And so having to tell her that no, I'm sorry, I'm asking a direct question. Are you on this side or the other side? And I'm getting other side. But he was able to give information about his location, so and I heard months later that they were able to follow up on it, and they did find him. He was deceased, obviously. So, but they were able to find his body. So
I've
it's
only
very
been
possible.
involved in something like that one time, and it just I got thrown into it. Just happened, something showed up on Facebook with some people I knew, and it was a guy I was working with. I think it was his mom that her brother was missing.
Oh,
He
wow.
left somewhere, didn't end up where he was supposed to be for like the holidays, and everybody's frantically searching. Like I don't know, and I
Yeah.
just had a feeling, I didn't leave, and so I said, I think he's at a hospital, and they don't know who he is. And it
Oh,
turned out it was like a
wow.
month later, but that's exactly what it was.
Oh my gosh, he was there all that
Yeah,
time.
they didn't have
Wow.
identification. They didn't know who he was, but he was okay. He was at
Oh
the
my
hospital.
gosh.
He had gotten
Wow. Good for
beaten
you for
up.
listening,
Yeah, he got
So
beaten up
many
at
of
a
us.
bus
Oh.
station
Oh, and they probably
and was
took his wallet.
unconscious. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
he was like
You know,
Skid
s-
Row or something. Like it's a real bad
oh,
area.
wow.
Yeah.
How'd you end up there?
I didn't, I mean, like, yeah,
No,
but I
how
mean,
did he end
I
up
just had
there?
this
Yeah.
feeling. And through all their work and everybody else's, detectives, that's where they end up finding him. I
Yes.
didn't do anything, to find him. I just
Well,
kind of
you said
quietly
that
told him,
though.
I think he's at a hospital.
You said it, and
I
that
said
that
it.
was enough to plant the seed. And I feel that's what spirit does too. They plant the seed for us so that we will follow the trail, kind of like JT did when I was learning that I was a medium and where to go. He would drop little seeds along the way. And so, congrats to you for listening and for speaking up. So many of us, we get those messages. Spirit talks to us every day. Every day we are guided. Every day we get, signs and messages that we're never alone. But most of us don't pay any attention to it. We're wrapped up in the physical world. So, yeah, so we don't focus on that. But, my job, that's where my job comes in to say, let's focus on that. Let's enhance that. Let's learn how to do that so that you can have a conversation with your guides, with those wonderful energies that are helping you, with your loved ones who never go away. I mean, they do, obviously, they go and do their thing, but they're never too far away. They will always come when you ask them to come, always. JT, I would ask him, I said, are you tired of hearing me call you? In the beginning, I would, as soon as I had connection with him, I was like calling him 50 times a day. JT, are you here with me? JT, are you here with me? Are you getting sick of me asking? And he says, no, Mom, this is, where else would I be? And I hear that often from others, loved ones as well. Where else would I be? Of course, I want to be with you. So we're not holding them back. They're doing their thing. He's definitely, JT is a teacher on the other side. He is doing lots of work. So I'm not holding him back just by asking him to be here. But but it is, it's one of those things that we can all learn to do.
Yeah, yeah, almost makes me think I almost lost our youngest son. He's
Oh,
actually my
wow.
biological, my nephew. And my
Oh
three little
my.
boys. I have my two biological, and then we adopted my sister's disabled sister,
Right.
little boy, when he was two. And a few months after we got him, my oldest boy, Matthew, he got the 24-hour flu. And then my Jeremy,
Oh,
he got the next one in line. He got the 24-hour flu. And so Nathan, he was adopted later, but at the time, it's my nephew that we were keeping. My sister was in a mental hospital and her husband's alcoholic. And so
mm,
I had him and just figured, 24-hour flu. I did the same things. And he was
right.
still in a diaper because he came to us at 2, still in a diaper. So,
Yes,
we're still
yes.
working with that. And So the other boys was down in the living room watching TV, and I picked up Nathan, laid him on the floor in the bathroom like I always do to take off his diaper, and had the
Right.
tub running. And I went, "Come on, Nathan," like you do babies. You just kind of naturally, clap your
Right.
hands like, "Come on, like get up to get in the tub." And I looked down, he wasn't breathing, and now he's
Oh
purple,
my gosh.
and now he's black.
Oh,
And he's
oh my
not breathing, and
gosh.
we didn't have a phone, so I ran as fast as I could to our neighbor, which is my sister-in-law, and said, "Call the ambulance." And I ran back up, and it was cold
Wow.
out, and I was pacing the floor. This baby wasn't breathing, and I'm pacing the floor.
Oh my
And the end
gosh.
of our road is the fire department. So like I'm
Oh,
thinking, where are they at? Where are they at?
yeah,
Like the
right. Because
sign
it's at the
seems
end of
like
the road.
forever, right?
Right. Oh my
And so I'm carrying this
gosh.
baby, and I'm like, Nathan, Nathan, and I'm like, I'm holding this dead child. I'm holding this dead child. Like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? How did this happen? And we were
Right.
just expecting to get a bath here. And so I think, where's that ambulance? And I open up the door, and I think that cold air brought down his
Oh,
fever because all of a sudden he sneezed.
oh, wow.
And so they pull in, they rush in, and they take him.
Oh my gosh.
And by the grace of God, thank you, Jesus, my sister who
Wow.
lived our way just happened to pull up,
Oh my
unexpected. So
gosh.
I was able to grab my boys and go with her and her two boys and ride behind the ambulance to the hospital. And later I was asked, why didn't you ride with him? And I'm like, I
There
was
wasn't
scared.
time. There wasn't time. Yeah.
I was so
There wasn't time
scared.
to think
I just
about
like get him to the
anything.
hospital.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and he was dead in my arms, and I was only 22, 3.
Oh my
You
gosh.
know what I mean?
Young.
I'm too young
Wow.
to
Yes.
know. And I didn't, if he died again, I didn't want to be there. I
Right.
mean, that probably sounds wrong to people, but
No.
I
Oh my
didn't want to be
gosh.
there.
No,
I
not at
couldn't
all.
want this again. And
Right.
so we got to the hospital, and come to find, they called my sister at the mental hospital, and they called her husband to come in, and I'm standing there with him, and
Oh my gosh.
they brought him out, and he's crying for me, and here's his biological dad. He wants nothing to do with him. And so they got a hold of, and the long story short is, they did not tell me. His parents did not tell me when they gave him to keep for months that when he gets a fever of 100, he has a seizure. Nobody had told me.
Oh,
So they said he has to have
wow.
phenobarbital on hand from now on, and those things, and
Right.
had to follow up with neurologists and things. But
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
he was, a baby was dead in my arms. And so,
Wow.
and then my son Jeremy, he almost he drowned, and we thought, I didn't think I would see him alive. So my really heart goes out to you, any
Oh,
mother that has lost a young little boy is just like,
right.
And then my second NDE, I lost my twins. I was only 2 months pregnant, but I mourn them to this day because I wanted those babies in my
Oh,
arms.
yes.
And when
Yes.
Jeremy, when I thought when he drowned, and so I'm like thinking, God, this is too much. You don't give us more than we can handle. And my husband was looking for him, and I found him. But I thought, I will be no good to anyone. You'll put me in an insane asylum. I couldn't
Well,
survive that.
that's what you think. I was thinking the same thing. I actually knew that I would be okay. I knew that I was going to figure this out, and I was going to do my grief process differently than what I had seen from other people. But I'll tell you, I was concerned about my husband because he had lost his mom when he was 13, 14 years old. And that kind of thing just wrecks somebody. And I thought, oh, he's not going to survive this. This
Yeah.
is not going to
Like I
this
survived that.
this is
Don't ask me
not
to do
going to
this
work
too.
well.
Right.
But he has done amazing. He did his, and men grieve so differently than women.
Yes.
And so he was able to do his own grief process his own way. And so many couples they divorce after a loss like that.
Uh-huh.
And we just held on to each other. And like I said, through the grace of God, we are here together still.
That's
But
amazing.
I've got to say, JT certainly knows how to help us in that way. Again, so many times connecting with me and giving me messages, giving me signs in those early days, to help you move through it. And all of our loved ones do when they get to the, when they get to the other side, their focus is to help us in learning how to live without them here. And so they that's part of their job. And they will do whatever they need to do, whatever they can do. Now, a lot of times we are shut down, right? Especially parents who lose children, you shut down, the grief gets in the way, and it's harder to connect. But it's not impossible. I began connecting with JT just 6 months after he left, and it was very spotty at first, very spotty. I did a better job connecting with other people's kids than with him, but that's pretty normal. It was very emotional. Whenever he would come in, I would burst into tears and then lose the connection. And so I had to again go through my process, and it was probably another 4 months after that. So let's say 10 months in to the entire process, and I started to hear him clearly. And was able to move through the grief there. Now, it never goes away, as you know, there's
Right.
always that piece of it. But what JT has taught me and what I teach now is that they don't want us to just wallow in our grief. They don't want us to stop living. They want us to continue. They want us to be in purpose and to live in purpose and to find that joy again. And that's the hardest thing that you can tell a person. You can tell a parent who's lost a kid, you can find that joy. You can find that joy again. But I always say I'm right here. That was 2007. We're coming up on, the
Yeah.
18 years here. No, is that, I can't do math apparently.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
18 years. Yeah. 18 years of him being on the other side come the end of March.
Yeah.
And I have found the joy. I have found the way to accept where he is, but also accept who I am. And I feel that that is something that we all need. We all need to figure that out. Again, what are we doing here? Why are we here?
When
So
when
that
I
is
lost my
amazing.
twins, when I was hit my 9 month mark, it dawned
Oh,
on me one day. We
wow.
were in the car turning into our house, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, this is my 9 month. I was
Wow.
thinking it was my due date. It was my due
Yes.
date. And
Yes.
all of a sudden I burst into tears, which I had been quiet about this. I had kept quiet. I was a type person growing up abused. You kept all your hurt to yourself. And all of a
Sure.
sudden, my due date. And without thinking, I burst into tears. And my ex, he looked at
Oh,
me and he said, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "This is my due date."
oh, wow.
And he said, "When are you going to get over that shit?"
Apparently, he was doing his process a little differently.
Yeah. When are you going to get over that shit? And here I am all these years later, because that was 1986.
Oh, wow.
Never, because it's
Right.
it's always this hurt, and that's all you have
Yeah.
left. That's all you have to hold. You can't
Yes,
hold them in your
there's
hands, so you hold that hurt in your
right.
heart. And don't take that from me. And people say, "Oh, well, you'll get over it in time, or you'll, yeah." No, 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 no. This is mine. This
Right.
hurt, this heartache, that's all I got, and I'm holding it.
Right. Yeah, a friend of mine said it just so beautifully that there's this hole in the heart that loss created this hole, this emptiness in your heart. She had another beautiful way to look at it though, is that it's still there, but there's like flowers growing in there, and there's different things that are alive in that empty space that you work on through again through your grief process and through again helping others like you're doing all of that. It's a way to make that hole, that space, have new life. And that's what I like to tell people who are at the beginning of the process, beginning of their grief. It's like that, yes, that hole is going to be there, but it doesn't have to command everything. It doesn't have to rule everything. And definitely feel it, experience it because there's no way around grief.
Right.
You've got to go through it, but there is another side to it. There is the aspect of, yes, I miss JT every day. But I also, again, I know where he is. I know that I can talk to him any moment that I need to. And again, teaching other people to do that, helping other people to understand that, yeah, that they aren't just gone. That's the worst, right? Thinking
Yeah.
that your kid's just gone. And I knew that that wasn't the case. I knew that he was somewhere. I just didn't know where.
Yeah.
But
You know,
now,
and
yeah, now I
another
know.
difference I see in all this too is when I was 5, when I drowned, I had a NDE, but
Yes.
it's all out of body. And so I was trying to play with these kids in the yard. They couldn't see me. I'm running
Oh
around.
my
These
gosh.
two boys were walking along the road carrying buckets and fishing poles. I'm like, where you going? What are you doing, huh? And they was ignoring me. But then the other one, I didn't have the
Wow.
word telepathic for a long time, but I realized it was telepathic. The younger one, he started answering me because I kept bugging,
Oh,
And he's like, well, we're in a
wow.
hurry. We're running late. We got to go home.
Oh my
We've been fishing.
gosh.
And so
That's
um,
awesome.
went in and out of houses and stuff. And I remember not long after the drowning, I was riding in the back seat. There's 5 of us kids, mom and dad, going to grandma and grandpa's, and it was right on the corner past it where I've been playing with those kids. And one of those
Right.
days we went driving, those kids was back out there playing, and that
Oh my
triggered my
gosh.
memory. And I jumped up, and in my head, I'm yelling.
Wow.
I'm thinking, this makes no sense because I'm yelling, that's my family. I'm like, what's wrong with me? So we pulled
Oh
up to grandma's,
wow.
and everybody else went in the house. And I'm standing on the sidewalk because this is fresh in my memory now. And I'm standing
Right.
there, this little 5-year-old kid, and I remember going in and out of them houses. And this voice is like, you
Oh.
did not. And I'm like, yes, I did too. Like, you couldn't have. And it
Oh
was so
my
strange because
gosh.
after my second NDE, I had that same dialogue with myself when I had remembered what happened
Right.
during that. I was like, that couldn't have happened, but it
Wow.
did, it did. And it's so
That
strange. For
must
20
have
years
been so
apart.
trippy at
And
5 years old. I
yeah.
mean, gosh, what do you do
And you
with
can't
that?
tell people that stuff, as a
No,
kid.
especially given your situation at the time. No way. No way.
And
I'm
so,
just
I
so
can kind of
glad
see
that
it as
now.
a child trying to connect, like your son,
Yeah.
and other kids trying to connect with you, like trying to find somebody, and then somebody hears
Yes.
you. But at that time, I was just like, okay, still they can't see me, so you go on. But I'll tell you
Right.
something weird too is after, during the drowning, I wanted to go find kids to play with as I'm drowned and hovering.
Right.
And
Right.
so there's this 2-story white house, and I've drove around. I cannot find that house anywhere. But there was this house, and I went through the door, and there's old people, ghosts, sitting
Oh.
around this table
Oh,
talking.
okay.
And they all
Oh,
stopped
wow.
talking. And one at the end, the guy looked at me, and I said, because back then in the 60s, you didn't interrupt adults talking, right? So I was real
Correct.
shy, and I said, I'm trying to find kids to play with. Because what else you going to do when you're dad, right?
When
And
you're five.
yeah.
Yeah.
He said, well, check the graveyards. And so I didn't tell
Oh my
anybody
gosh.
that part of my NDE for the longest time because that
Oh
sounds
my
really
gosh.
stupid. But then I got thinking, you know what? Maybe people do hang around graveyards. Maybe kids do
Right.
go to graveyards and find other kids to play. I don't know.
Well, and coming from somebody else who's out of body, right? He doesn't know where to go
Yeah,
for
maybe it's his best guess.
kids, right? His best guess is, hey, yeah, we're buried there, so
Graveyards.
maybe.
Maybe that's where he
That's
found his friends
wild.
and started this party around this table.
Exactly. Maybe that's where he first was, and then he ended up at the White House. I love that. It's a bummer you can't find the house.
Well,
That
I
would be
always
really
thought
amazing, wouldn't it?
when I was at the pond, I thought I could go right towards Belpre when I go find kids to play with, or I go left towards Marietta. So I went towards Belpre.
Oh,
And so I always looked in that direction. But a few months back, my husband said he went to this house right past the pond, but it's towards Marietta. And
oh,
I want to
oh,
go look at that house. I want to see what that house looks like. Because he says it was a white 2-story house. Because I would
oh.
recognize the porch. Like I could draw this
Right,
house
because you
where
walked right there.
this porch
Yeah,
sat on the side, not like a front porch. It was on the side porch at the end of the
right.
house. And the kitchen was right there. It's like, I want to go down that road, but it's kind of like
Wow.
dead end. And I don't want to bother these old people. But one of these days, I want to get the nerve and say, drive down. I
You
just want to peek at
have
that house
to.
real quick.
You have to. You have to go see. Yeah, definitely. Even if you just drive by and say, "Oh my gosh, that's it," because that's got to be so validating for you. I mean, I know that you have had your situation validated, your NDE validated. I mean, just from the things that you have done since then and all of that, it's all
Well,
a
I got
very
my medical
real.
records from my doctor when I was on Dr.
Oh,
Oz
wow,
about
yes.
the tubal. But
Yes.
the drowning, so a couple years ago, I recorded it. I called my mom. She's in the nursing home before she passed away. And I said, Mom, what do you remember about that drowning? And I got her and I put it on my YouTube channel.
Oh, good.
And just so, but she was right on board with everything. Because, I'd asked her,
Wow.
when I remembered after the 25-year-old India, the drowning all come back. And so the only thing she disagreed on was, she says that she got looking around, noticed I wasn't there. She asked my brother John, "Where'd you see her last?" So he started diving down to where he
Yeah.
saw me last. Because he took my board and caused me to drown. I was floating on a board. So he knew where I was,
Oh,
right?
right. Yeah. He knew where you went down.
Yeah. And because I don't remember the rescue, I remember all this stuff, but I don't remember being found. And so I
That's
asked her, "Did I
interesting.
drown? And how did you find me?" "Yeah, you did. How did you remember that?" So she said, "So when I noticed you were gone, I told John, where did you see her last? You go down there and you keep going down till you get her." So when he
Wow.
got me, he's carrying my body over his shoulder up to the house, and I wake up, coughing up water down his back, and I see my mom and sister up ahead. He's going to put her
Right.
down now because their sister's puking on him, right? Yeah, and they go
Right.
up the house. So I say, "Mom, was I dead?" She goes, "What are you talking about?" When he was hanging, because I'm thinking, I always say, he's carrying my dead body to the house.
Right.
Because I wake up unconscious, I wake up in this
Right.
water because I don't remember the rescue. I remember being up there doing all this stuff, and then I'm coughing up down his back. And she's like, "No, not hardly."
Well, I
What else
obviously
was
she
I?
didn't get it. Yeah, she didn't understand, and that's okay. I'm sure it would be, can you imagine, what for her to acknowledge that would have meant that she would have
Was guilty.
failed. Yeah, exactly. So of course she had to say no. But yeah, you were not in your body until that moment when you expressed
Yeah.
yourself on your brother's back.
Because I was
You
just sitting in
know?
my bedroom playing with my Barbie dolls, minding my own business. She walks in and says, "Hey, you and John go swimming. Me and Terry, my sister, be out down after a bit."
Oh,
And so I'm
wow.
waiting my little feet in. He's doing laps and they're not coming. They're not coming. So I get a board and then I
Yeah.
get out. Hey, John, look at me. He grabs my board and I drown, and then I'm over my body and all
Oh
this.
my
And
gosh.
then, so, I mean, she
Yes,
wasn't that,
she couldn't know. I don't think she could know. And if she could not admit it,
yeah.
and bless her heart for that.
And
But
I was youngest of five, but actually it was six because their firstborn died at 9 months old.
oh
And
wow.
today we would call it neglect. And
Right.
so,
Right.
she said it was ammonia,
Right.
but,
Yeah.
I've heard the story and everything, and it was neglect.
Yeah.
And so how do you bond with four more kids after you lost your first one? I couldn't had as a,
Right.
mother.
Right.
And she got married at 17 and just started having one kid after
Oh
another.
my
And,
gosh.
have your
Yeah.
firstborn die. And so I gave her a pass for a long time for, she
Exactly. I mean,
just
of
didn't
course,
bond,
yeah,
with us.
it doesn't mean that what you endured was any less just because you gave her the pass, but that was very beautiful for you to do that because your experience was your experience. The what you experienced was real there. And but again, yeah, I don't think she was going to be able
Yeah.
to say that you had died and come
One of our
back.
adopted kids said one day she was not taking care of her little baby. And she says, "I just don't have that motherly touch," you know? And I'm like, I think some women
Oh
just don't
my.
get it.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. I agree.
She
I
ended up losing
agree.
her three girls. She lost custody of them. She did not have that motherly touch. She just did
Right.
not have, and my mom just didn't have it. Maybe she
Right.
had it with the first one and she lost him. I don't know. But I mean, that was neglect, what I heard happened
Right.
there. So,
Yes.
some people just don't have it. And somebody was going to
Right.
do a movie and write the screenplay on my story one time years ago. And she wanted to write my mom as an alcoholic. I said, my mom never drank. And she
Oh,
says, but who would
wow.
understand her being like this? I said, well, I can't help you there.
Oh
But
my
she
gosh.
was
So she
never
didn't
drank.
have that. But she had addictive tendencies, but not
No,
alcohol.
she was not an alcoholic, drug
Wow.
addict, nothing like that.
Yes.
She just maybe narcissistic. Maybe that would
Narcissistic.
be a word we'd
Right.
use today.
Wow.
But
definitely.
and then us other
Yeah.
mothers, like me, even 2 months pregnant, we're like mourning forever. And
Oh, definitely,
so,
definitely. And I totally admire you for being able to, to do that and to understand that, your twins, even though they didn't make it in, you know where they are. You know where they are. So uh, it doesn't make the loss, it doesn't make the feeling of them not being here any less. And that's what I tell people. I don't get a pass. I don't get a pass on grief just because I have connection with JT. But I'll tell you, to be able to at any time say, "Hey JT, I need you to weigh in on this. Hey JT, what should I be doing here? What's for my highest good here?" Because he has a view that I don't have. He's got a view of the higher frequency that I don't have. He knows what is what my plan is, and the work that we do together. He and I work together all the time. He wrote a book. I channeled a book for him called My View from Heaven. Talks all about his process of getting to the other side and why we come here to begin with, why we're here
what
anyway.
was it like for him initially? Did you find out in the initial
As far as you mean
his
him
passing?
leaving, his
Yeah.
passing, it's interesting. He told somebody, an intuitive friend of mine, before I had connection with him, he told them that it felt like he was going through the tubes at Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh,
And so, like crawling through the tubes at Chuck E.
oh.
Cheese. And I had to laugh at that because what a great analogy for going through the tunnel or going into the light or whatever, to go through the tubes at Chuck E. Cheese. But for everybody, it's different. I talked to a lot of people about their what happened when they transitioned. And some people, they do see a tunnel. Some people, they do see a light. Some people, their energy just lifts, and they suddenly find themselves in a different space.
And what
So there's a lot of different ways.
a beautiful thing for God to make a child feel like this is just a tube through Chuck E. Cheese.
Exactly. Don't be afraid. And yes, he did have a lot of help. We found later that he was helped by an amazing angel slash guide, very high frequency energy. And she is the one that told him to get me out of the room the night that he passed because I was going to stay with him in his bedroom, uh and he needed to leave. And if
Oh,
I was there, I would have tried to save him and probably would not have been successful. And so she told him, get your mom out of the room. And so that was one of the things that night, before he passed. I was lying in bed next to him, and he pops up and he says, "Mom, go to your room." And I said, "Oh, do you want to come with me? Do you want to?" And he says, "No, no, I want to watch TV. So you go to your room," because he knew I couldn't sleep with the TV on. And so he never would have done that. That was so out of character for him.
do they
So out
think
of
he
character.
passed during the night, or was he revived on the way? I know you said he died at the
He
hospital,
passed.
but
He was, yeah, no,
he was
he
already gone,
passed. He
never
was
had come
already
back,
gone. Yeah.
never
And I
resuscitated.
No,
Okay.
and they tried. They really did. They worked on him for 45 minutes in my house, pulled him out into the hallway, were trying to get an airway, and then for an hour at the hospital. They did everything they could. But I knew as soon as I started doing CPR, just felt he wasn't there. And I said to my husband, I said, he's gone. And my husband screamed at me and says, "Don't you say that. You keep doing, and
Right. I
okay,
would be, yeah,
okay,
I imagine.
okay." But I didn't feel him there. I didn't.
Yeah,
And so
mothers
I kept
know.
doing CPR until the police officer arrived and he took over for me. And then he continued CPR until the paramedics came. But yeah, no, he left at about, well, let's see. I left his It was only a 3-hour window. between when I left that room
Okay.
and went back in to check on him. And I left the room at about, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And 6 a.m. I wake up from sleeping in my room, and I went and used the bathroom, and I came back out, and I said to myself, I'm afraid to go check on him. What if he's dead? Where do you get that? The kid had the flu. Where would I have come up with that? Well, they were helping me. Spirit was helping me with understanding what I was going to walk into. And so I said, well, I've got to go check on him. And I walked in, and he looked so peaceful. He did. But then I found that I saw his chest wasn't rising and
They
falling.
say the most you can hope for is die in your sleep.
Right. And it was very peaceful. He is, one of the other things I was really blaming myself a lot for not getting him to the hospital. All those things that you do as a mom, as a parent. I should have
Yeah.
protected him. I should have saved him. I should have this and that. And he told me later, he says, Mom, I didn't want to die in the hospital. I was leaving. It was my time. I was going to go. I didn't want to be in a hospital. I wanted to be home. So, thankfully, I had food poisoning that day and couldn't have taken him anywhere. And that was purposeful as well. I learned later because I would have, it would have changed the course of what he really wanted, and he wanted to be home and to transition from home.
Having
Yeah.
those psychic feelings, that guy that I worked with, I told you about, there's another time at that same job. It was not daylight yet. It was still dark. It was early in the morning. I was working as a helper. My husband's a welder. I used to do social work, counseling, and all that, charity
Right.
investigations, but then I switched to working with my husband after the kids were going. And so we're standing there for morning meeting, and all of a sudden I stopped listening to what the boss was saying about, what we're doing that day. And I hugged my husband and I whispered in his ear because I felt it so strong. And I wasn't used to like acknowledging these things was going on, but I was getting to where I could tell my husband anything. And I said, I need to tell you something. I said, look around. One of us isn't going to be here tomorrow. One of us is going to be dead.
Oh.
I don't know who it is. One of us is going to be
Whoa.
dead. One of us is going
Wow.
And then I pointed to two guys that were standing together, young guys. I said, it's going to be one of them. And I don't know which one it is. One of them.
Wow,
I
Peggy.
felt
Oh
like
my
one's going to be dead
gosh.
and the other's going to be the cause of it. And the
All
next
of that.
morning,
Oh
yeah,
my
the next
gosh.
morning, one of them went there.
Yes.
And a few hours later, the other one
Oh my
come and
gosh.
was happily telling everybody that he died. Happily. He committed
Hmm.
suicide. And I thought, this guy has something to do with it. I know he has something to do with it. And
Yes.
end up, I talked to the family and just, consoling and stuff at first. And then they started having concerns about that other guy maybe been
Right.
involved. And so I had went to, I told my husband, I said, I need to go where Mitch was his name that committed suicide. I need to go where I saw him last,
Oh,
the day before he died, that night. He
right.
killed himself at midnight. And I said, I need to go there. And people are still talking to everybody, trying to get the information exactly what happened.
Wow.
And I went off by myself in this field. I said, because I seen him happy, so happy. He was talking to me right here in this field. He got all his problems I helped him with all solved. And he's like, oh, the lawyer called and everything's solved. Thank you for helping me.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I need to go right there where he was happy and just feel him. And I'm standing there just, Mitch, why'd you do this? And all of a sudden I saw him hovering up above me and he went, I messed up. So, like, I never knew. Was it suicide? Did he mess up?
Oh,
Did this guy really
wow.
have anything to do with it? And I think it was that guy pressuring him, making him feel bad about his legal situation, like his life was over and
Right.
ruined, that led him to it. But he ultimately messed up. And
Right.
so, but yeah.
Right.
So I got
Wow.
real close with his mom after that and kept in touch on Facebook. And
Yeah.
but his uncle, when I told him, I finally, at the end of talking to him for hours, I finally told him, I said, I saw Mitch. And he shrugged and he says, I messed up. And he
Oh,
had a big smile on his face. Like, so
yeah.
what? I messed up. And he's like, what did you just say? Like, I felt like he seen Mitch when he looked at me and I said that. Like, he knew that was
Oh,
Mitch or something. And his mom
yes.
was the same way. But But yeah, I don't
Oh,
get strong enough to where I could go and for a fact tell anybody anything. Usually.
right,
Sometimes
right.
I do,
That was very
not
strong.
usually.
Yes.
And what am I going to do with that? It's one of them. At first it was like, one of us isn't going to be here. It's like, it's one of those two. I couldn't go up and say, hey, one of you is going to be dead tomorrow. Maybe I
Well,
could
no,
have.
that's not
You know
something.
what I
No,
mean?
no,
But you
no, that's not
cannot do that.
something
I would
that we
probably get
do.
fired. Walking out and telling somebody, when are you going to be dead tomorrow? And then one of them's dead. Like, there's
No,
me, I
no,
don't.
that's yeah, that is definitely against the ethics of my profession for sure. But a lot of people come to me who are similar stories where they get these one-off hits. Every now and then it's like bam, bam, bam. And what I do is, work with master teachers on the other side, and we develop a plan for them to learn how to control it, how to open it, hone it, whatever it is that needs to happen. And it really is a beautiful process because, again, we all have this ability. I'm not special. I just learned how to do it. Yes, it's my purpose. Yes, that's, the agreement that I had with JT to come, when he was going to leave, I was going to learn to do this. But, but bottom line is we can all do it, really. So that's one of the things
And
I
some
like to
people
do for
seem
others.
so removed from all this, and which I have said
Yes,
before, I was raised by my strict Christian grandmother that this was the devil,
right.
palm reading
Yes,
or fortune telling. And so when I started talking into the NDE community and I see all this stuff related, and I was just
right.
reading comments on somebody I talked to the other day because she channels, these Christians are blasting her. And,
Right,
the Bible
right,
says this, the Bible says that. And I was like, but above all else, to love each other. Right? So
right.
please don't be
Well, and
rude to
there
my
are,
guests.
there are definitely parts of the Bible, the gifts of the prophecy, there's definitely aspects to it, but I understand that if you yeah, the way that I am learning about where JT is and all of that, it definitely is different. Definitely is different. And that's when I was writing my view from heaven, and he would tell me these things of where he was and what he was doing and different things that just were unbelievable. I had to tell him, I said, let me take a break here. I need to assimilate this a little bit because this is pretty big. And after that book came out, then other books came out. Other books came out that were saying the same thing. And so yeah, I thought, wow, it's amazing. It's amazing. But we only know what we know, and I leave it to JT to inform me of what what do I need to know now, what do I need to share, and all of that. But uh, people have to be where they're at though, and if they don't understand it or if they are having trouble accepting it or whatever because of beliefs, because of where they are, then that's just where they are.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's fine.
Well,
I know I'm not going to hell, so
well, like me, after I had that NDE, of course I know what that was called or anything. I thought I'm the only one it ever
right.
happened to. And I see these people on Oprah saying, and I'm like, oh, how ridiculous. What big liars. Like, oh my God, it was real. And
Wow.
I still thought for the longest time those people were still liars. So I've got to know
Right.
one of the girls that was actually on that show because I had
Awesome. Good.
interviewed the doctor that had studied these kids not that long
Yeah.
ago. Like, this is so weird because this is his patient that he first brought out, Dr. Melvin Morse, this
Uh-huh.
little girl then was saying these things. And well, she's like teenager, Crystal. But now I find out she was so legit. But my judgment
Wow.
at the time of her
Right.
was like, oh, I have a middle sister that's compulsive liar. Not the crazy one, but the other one's such a compulsive liar. Oh, that's just like my sister. Oh my God. And then, my God,
Wow.
it's real.
Isn't
So,
that amazing? And I love how the universe does that, that they bring the evidence to you that no, that wasn't you really did experience that, that you weren't making it up and it's not just your imagination, that you really did experience it. And I just think it's beautiful that that spirit does that, that the universe does
yeah.
that
And
for all of
I
us.
think who was that mean voice that say, no, it wasn't? And I was like, yes, it was. No, it wasn't. Just like when I was little,
Right.
when I was standing there looking at the
Right.
houses, where's my grandma's? That can't be true. But it is. And so they
Right.
say what you're doing, I'll have comments that say, that's evil spirits and that's just not. But no, who was that evil spirit telling me it couldn't be true? Because the truth is, it was
Right.
true in both instances.
Yeah. And
So,
for me, I mean, it just feels light and loving and I have had experience with the other energy with other things as well, with the darker side of things. I don't allow that into my world at all. But in the beginning, when you're learning to do this, different things happen. And so, yeah, so I know the difference. I know the difference between that and this. And it just
and
feels
I
so
think
loving.
everybody should know the difference between the dark
Right.
and the good voices that we
Right.
hear, because
Right.
maybe people wouldn't go
Yes.
do the horrible things they do and these
Right.
mass things,
Exactly.
because
Hmm.
I'm sure some evil voice was saying this was a good idea.
Very possibly. Yeah, definitely.
So,
I am so grateful to be on this show with you. Thank you
thank
so much
you.
for your time. Anytime I can talk about JT, I love the opportunity. He has just brought so much joy to me and to everybody that he
Okay,
encounters
I'll put
from the other
the
side.
links to your books in this description. There's three, correct? I think I have them all written
Yes,
down here. Okay. And do you have a
beautiful.
website or contact that we put in there?
I do, yes, serenabaptista.com, or if that's too difficult to spell, then
I'll,
just bridgetohealing.com
okay.
is an easy way to do it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peggy. It was great to talk with you. And yeah, thank you again for letting me share everything with your audience.
Now, are you with Space Coast Ions? Are you?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I seen
Yes.
that in
Yeah.
something. Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Was you there when I gave my talk a couple months ago?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
See my
Yes.
memory. Okay.
Well, no, I can imagine that that you get bombarded with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank
Uh-huh.
you so very much. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
You too. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.